Passover, Pesach, it's a very scholarly holiday. We all kind of get engaged in this whole project of learning in a way that we don't during the rest of the year, when we do so much learning in our homes, with our families, and with one another. And leading up to this season of learning, these 2 nights of extra learning that are our Pesach Seders, I heard some really wonderful questions from our community. I wrote about one of them, I think it was last week in my Parsha column, but just for those who might not have read it, this question that I got from someone who was new to Pesach and said, I had a friend come over and help me clean our house, or clean the house from top to bottom, and it was great, but the only thing they didn't touch was the food. So I'm new to Pesach, what do I do about the food? And so I was kind of blown away by this question, and I said, there's a lot of different places to start. If you're a beginner, you probably can ask a bunch of different rabbis, get a bunch of different answers. And so I said, just let all your bread products like cereals, just don't buy any more, just let them run out, and instead buy matzah and eat matzah. And it was something I really never thought about the holiday that way before. And so I got this other question, can you recommend a Haggadah? And it's like, whoa, okay, where do we even start with that one? And the person specifically said in his email, not like a bunch of them, just maybe like 2 or 3. Like keep it a short list of recommendations, not lists upon lists, because you know how that could get crazy. And so I recommended a couple of Haggadot. These are the ones I recommended. At the top of the list is the Maxwell House Haggadah. This is something, oh yeah, it's right here. It's right here. There are so many reasons why I love this Haggadah. It's classic, it's kitschy, it's fun, it's complete. It has all the different parts in it, and it's great to use with students because it's kind of small. It's easy to kind of follow along. It's very accessible and friendly in that way. And then so that was the first Haggadah out of the 3 that I recommended. The second one I recommended, and with a few reservations, but still a recommendation, is the Chabad.org Haggadah. So this is from an Orthodox perspective, which doesn't exactly match everything I personally believe or follow or do, but it's really, really well done, very accessible, a great resource, available online, or you can print it out. So that was the second recommendation. And then the third one I recommended, which I have right here, is called the 4 Cups, a Recovery Haggadah. So this is a Haggadah coming from a place of traditional Judaism and 12-step recovery. So it's really about a personal journey towards freedom, a very different perspective. And so this was my recommendation for the non-traditional Haggadah. So those are the recommendations. And then we got, of course, to our Seder last night. So we didn't have just 2 or 3. Of course, we had like the large stack of Haggadot over here. We had the smaller stack over here. And so the 3 Haggadot that I found myself using last night, of course, the Maxwell House, the 4 Cups right here, and then another one I don't have with me this morning. It's a Haggadah called the Big Fish, and it's by someone named Phil Weiss, who's a professor, not a rabbi, but it's a complete transliteration of all the traditional text in the Haggadah. And something that we've been talking about a bit in our community is a complete transliteration of whether it's the Siddur or a Bencher or whatever prayer book. It makes it very easy for people who are in their process of learning to follow along with everything, not just the important parts. Of course, all of it's important, right? So these are the 3 Haggadot I had in front of me. And then another Haggadah that we used a lot in our Seder last night was the New American Haggadah by Jonathan Safran Foer. Anyone use that one? People like that? Well, that one is very popular. It's very beautiful. It's kind of large. It's got a lot of illustrations. But for me, you could turn it this way, and then you turn it this way, and then you can never keep it open. And so I'm like, but people love this Haggadah. I'm kind of, But one of the things that was great about using that Haggadah last night, we were on Zoom. We had people in a couple of different locations, and that was one where we could all use the same page numbers because we had a variety of Haggadot around our different tables. But by the end of the Seder, we're going back and forth between this one and that one and the other one and the New American Haggadah, and we found ourselves looking at the Maxwell House Seder, or Haggadah, the most. And I found, at least I'm thinking, why do we end up with all of these beautiful Haggadot, these stacks and stacks and all this commentary? Why are we looking at this? It's kind of the same reasons why I use it with my students. It's easy to follow along. It doesn't have a lot of commentary, which can be a drawback, but also a benefit because it's easier to find your place. And, it stays open pretty easily, which is important when you have a bunch of things on the table and a lot going on. So this is Haggadah, a special place in my heart, especially this year. That said, no Haggadah seems to have everything that you'd need or want. That's why you need the stacks and stacks. So it's kind of a good thing. So we have the Maxwell House, which doesn't have commentary, but again, benefits and drawbacks. Also, there's a particular paragraph, I don't know if you are familiar with it, Hineni Muchanu Mazuman, after, or rather before all of the 4 cups. This was our tradition in our family, but most Haggadah don't have it. Not this one, but the big fish, the transliteration, that one that was in there. So every family has its own traditions. Every family has its favorite sections. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about my personal favorite section. I like to call it the Rabbis Do Math. And so I was teaching this to my religious school students just a couple of weeks ago, and they're all taking their copious notes. They're great students, and they're writing down like, okay, here's the part of the Haggadah called the Rabbis Do Math. And I was like, well, this is not a traditional name for this section, so you might, when you talk to other people, you'll be promoting this name, and not it's like, oh yeah, the Rabbis Do Math. Everyone knows that part. So I wanted to look at it just quickly, because I love a good math problem, and the rabbis tackle math in a very rabbinic sort of way. So this is after the section where we say the 10 plagues, before Dayenu, and it goes a little bit like this. Rabbi Yossi the Galilean said, how can you say the Egyptians were struck with 10 plagues in Egypt, but at the Red Sea they were struck with 50 plagues? So here's the answer, of course. In Egypt, and the magician said to Pharaoh, this is the finger of God, but at the sea it said, it's the hand of God. So with the finger, they were struck with 10 plagues in Egypt. At the Red Sea, they were struck with 50 plagues. But it doesn't stop there, because Rabbi Eliezer said, how can it be deduced that every plague with the most holy, blessed be God, brought upon the Egyptians in Egypt consisted actually of 4 different plagues in one? Because, of course, it is said, God sent out against them the fierceness of anger, wrath, indignation, and trouble, and a band of evil. Indignation and trouble are the same one, and a band of evil angels. Wrath is 1, indignation 2, trouble 3, and a band of evil angels 4. So it may be deduced in Egypt they were struck with 40 plagues, 10 times 4. At the Red Sea, 10 times 4 times 5, 200 plagues. But wait, there's more. Rabbi Akiva says, how can it be deduced that each plague with the most holy God, blessed, brought against the Egyptians consisted actually of 5 plagues? Because, of course, there's the anger, there's the wrath, indignation, and trouble, actually 2 separate things. Then, of course, we have the band of evil angels. So each 5 plagues by 1, that's 50 plagues. 1 times 5, or 1 times 10 times 5, the 50 plagues. Then the hand of God at the Red Sea struck with 250 plagues, and thankfully we just from there get grateful and we say Dayenu, and we don't continue multiplying because we could be there all night. So this is the Rabbis Do Math, my personal favorite section. And last night, actually, we had a discussion about a different section, one that I don't really pay attention to because it's after we start the eating, and so I'm kind of like, all right, we're munching, we're doing the thing. I haven't really done this before. I looked up something in the Chumash, and I think it's because we had some great questions about exactly what we were doing with the 3 different matzot. So turning back a little, this is about the section called Korech, the Hillel sandwich, but we're turning back a little bit to the section about matzah, because when we say the blessing over the matzah, we have the 3 matzot, of course, the top one, the middle one, which we break, and then the bottom one. So when we say the blessing over the matzah, we have a little bit of the top matzah and a little bit of the middle matzah, but not the bottom matzah. We save that in reserve for the Hillel sandwich. And when we say in remembrance of the temple, we do as Hillel did at the time when the Holy Temple was standing. Hillel would combine the paschal lamb, the matzah, and the maror, and eat them together to fulfill the verse, they shall eat it together with matzot and maror. And the question was asked, which verse is this? So we have in this particular Haggadah, but most of them have a little note where you lead back to the section in the Eitz Chaim Chumash. So if you want to follow along in this part, you can follow along with your eyes and your ears. We find this on page 809. The verse itself, the section starts on page 819, but the verse itself is on page 820. And actually, if you're at the bottom of page 820, your Eitz Chaim Chumash, It's in the gray box commentary at the bottom, chapter 9, verse 11, with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. This verse is the source for the Hillel sandwich, in which the maror, bitter herb, is eaten with matzah during the Pesach Seder. Here it is. And that verse is, they shall offer it in the second month, at the 14th day of the month at twilight. They shall eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs, and they shall not leave any of it over until morning. So this is the section where we have the Pesach, the unleavened bread, and the bitter herbs all together in the same bite. And this is a beautiful thing. Okay, so I think that, let me just say one thing about this, and then I'll bring us back to a commentary and wrap it up. But if we turn back to page 819, and this is something that I definitely did not notice before this year, when we have this instruction to make the Hillel sandwich, it comes in the section describing the second Pesach. So we have this, and this actually is on our calendar every year, Pesach Sheni. We'll have this a month from now. Because if we look on page 820 at verse 6, there were some people who were impure by reason of a corpse. They had been near a dead body, something that they didn't intend, and they couldn't offer the Passover sacrifice on the appropriate day because they were not in ritual purity. And Moses and Aaron said, that's okay, you can make up for this situation 1 month from now, and not in the first month on the 14th of the month, but on the second month on the 14th of the month, you can offer the Passover sacrifice. That's the makeup day, the designated makeup day. You don't have to be left out just because you found yourself in a state of ritual impurity, which you did not predict. Okay, so I'll close with this, because this commentary is from the Four Cups Recovery Haggadah. And it's talking about, again, the Hillel sandwich. Okay, in the times of the Holy Temple, not only was there a mitzvah to eat the matzah and the bitter herbs on this night, there was also a mitzvah to eat of the meat of the Passover sacrifice. These are 3 different obligations. The innovation of Hillel was to take all 3 of these mitzvot and do them all at the same exact time. There's a profound symbolism here. We're not satisfied to only do the next right thing. We want to do as many right things as we possibly can. We're eager to do as much as we can for God, for others, never resting, never being content when it comes to pursuing usefulness and service. Therefore, if there are multiple mitzvot that can be packed into one literal or figurative bite, we do so with fervor. So we're actually at the beginning of a period of 3 days of rest, 2 days of Yom Tov and a Shabbat. And even though we're resting and we're not in our regular routine of action, we can still think about how we can be of maximum impact. And we can still do mitzvot and good deeds even on days of rest. May we be blessed as we move into the springtime season together to have maximum positive impact on each other, on our local community, on our Jewish people, and on the world. Chag Sameach.